The other day I made a video where I was just talking about a story from my past. And I have to say, I really enjoyed making that. And one of the reasons, I'm not going to lie, is because it was a very easy video to make. If you're not making a lot of edits and you're adding music and trying to do all kinds of kooky things with photo editing and video editing, you can make a video pretty fast. I can see now why someone like Tim Pool can upload, 6, 7 videos a day. If you just record yourself just talking about something you're interested in, you can really speed up that process and churn out new material at a pretty impressive rate. And so I decided I would do another narration style video. And this one is about a critical thinking class that I took in college, and also the greatest one-liner I think I've ever told. The Introduction to Critical Thinking. I remember taking this class. I'd signed up for it. I believe I was a freshman in college at the time. And we got about 3 weeks into the course, and I have to hand it to the professor. I thought this was a pretty cool thing that she offered. Basically, you could take an opt-out exam where if you passed that particular exam, you were guaranteed an automatic A for the semester, whether or not you chose to attend the class after that point. So I signed up to take the exam. I remember I had to come in on the weekend to do it. And that particular exam, it was all essay style. And you had to argue both pro and con the idea of having a big business being introduced to a small town. So you had to decide what the benefits would be of something like that happening, and also the negatives that would happen. And it's funny that I still remember that specific essay. I guess because when I came back to school on Monday for the regular class, the professor pulled me aside and told me that I was one of only 2 people that had passed the exam question and were able to opt out of that class. And she had strongly suggested that even though I did that, I should consider still attending the class. And I said, yeah, you're right. I'll think about it. And what ended up happening was a couple of days later, I remember I was leaving one of the buildings, and I passed that specific professor. She was outside with a couple other professors, and they were all smoking. And she saw me, and she kind of smiled at me, and I waved to her. And the second I rounded the corner, I thought to myself, well, this lady doesn't know how to think critically. She wouldn't be outside smoking, if she was. So that actually is what made me decide to not attend that class anymore. I don't know if that's weird or not, but that's what I decided. And I ended up using that extra free period I think I was practicing up on, I believe it was algebra. I've never been that good at math, and I decided it was a much better use of my time to study, a subject that I just wasn't as good at. So I felt that was me, thinking very critically. So even though I was only in that class for about 3 weeks, I really enjoyed my time there because I really felt like I got a lot out of it. So that was my introduction to critical thinking. Good course. The greatest one-liner I've ever told. I believe I was a sophomore in college, and I was taking a Biology 101 course. And we got to the point in the course where we were dissecting a cow's brain. And I remember the day of the lab, I had my workstation, I had my brain. I believe, the idea was that as you were dissecting, you had to identify all the various parts of the brain and kind of set them all on the side, along with your notes of what they were. And the teacher was making her way around the lab and just kind of looking at people's work and seeing how they were doing. And I remember very specifically when she walked past the station that I was at, she was kind of talking to herself. And so she walked by and she was looking at all these brains in their trays. And she said, I wonder if I should keep these brains. I wonder if I could reuse them for something else. And without missing a beat, I said, well, they say a mind is a terrible thing to waste. And what did I get for that? Crickets! Nothing but crickets. I remember she kind of looked at me like, strange thing for you to say. And the rest of the class was completely silent. And to this day, I still think to myself, what are the odds that I'm gonna be in a room full of brains with a teacher walking around, or it could be anyone really, looking at all these brains and then saying out loud, gee, I wonder if I should keep all these brains. And then me crushing it. A mind is a terrible thing to waste. And nothing. I mean, you couldn't set that up any more perfectly. And I guess that's why I don't do stand-up comedy. The end.